All right, guys, welcome back to the WRPF podcast. I'm your host, Alex Uslar. Episode 23, we got my boy, Jason Legrand, all right? Country gentleman from Augusta, Georgia, all right? I love his accent. I know you guys are going to love his accent, too. I grew up I was just telling him before we hit record, I grew up in the South, too. I grew up in Pensacola. It wasn't far from Georgia, but I never adopted the accent because I only lived there about 7 or 8 years. That was a pretty good accent, right? My sister,
You're
still
closer to Alabama than I am.
I know, bro. And like my sister, my mom, we've lived in Miami now longer than we ever lived in Pensacola. But it's funny because my sister, she was a little older when we lived there, and she adopted that accent. She still has it, so everyone kind of looks at her like crazy living in Miami, and she still got the y'alls and stuff like that.
It's crazy because a lot of other people from other states, when they hear that I'm from Georgia, like, you don't really sound like you're from the South, and I just give it time. You just gotta listen.
Yeah,
You'll catch up on it.
The right words come out, you hear it. All right, or maybe we're comfortable enough around people, right? So, guys, if you don't know Jason, all right, Jason has been competing much shorter period of time than I thought. And I'm very excited to hear about his competition history. I first saw Jason compete at Bossa Boss's 5 in 2018. I was at that meet, handling, coaching, and saw his numbers and what he was supposed to hit at that meet, which he ended up bombing out about at that meet. We'll talk about that when we get there. And before that meet, he had boasted a 602 dots, all right, in just his first year of competing. So that's fucking nuts. Super excited to hear about that. Super excited to dive into that. Jason is currently in prep for the American Pro, like everyone and their mother, doing it in sleeves as his first real sleeved meet, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Hell yeah. So let's get into it, my boy. So talk to me. What was you're 30 years young, same as me.
That's right.
Only been competing since 2017. What were you doing before that, before you got into powerlifting?
Before I got into powerlifting, man, I really was just kind of in the gym, just wanted to be healthy. Kind of more leaning towards like the bodybuilding side of stuff. I wasn't like dedicated towards it. I just wanted to be healthier. When I graduated high school, when I was 18, I weighed 293 pounds and had like a 44-inch waist. Like, I was just super, super huge.
Did you play football or anything like that?
Played football, baseball, basketball, and track.
All right.
But and I was a pretty athletic person. I was pretty fast. Had a pretty good vertical and strong, but the whole dieting and the working out thing, I never really took it very seriously. I've just always been kind of a naturally genetically strong kind of athletic person. So really before that, I was just kind of just a standard average gym rat in the gym 5-6 days a week and just kind of doing my thing.
So through those years of training, you get out of high school. Did you have any like formal training through high school where you were exposed to the barbell in Augusta, Georgia? Or was it just football and basic weight kind of shit technique stuff?
For the most part, it was just kind of like leaning out of what I had learned going through high school sports. I kind of picked up on a lot of that. But then I started just being a standard guy, just Googling like different types of workouts and everything. And one of the ones that I came across was like the Arnold blueprints that they have on bodybuilding.com. And there's like a mass building one and there's a ripped one. And I just started alternating those. I did that for almost 2 years, man. I do, in my bulk season, I would do like the bodybuilding, the mass one. And then during the summertime roll around, I would just swap over and do the ripped one. And it's a lot of like your traditional chest and back exercise combos, a lot of push pull systems is what it was, and I really just stuck with that, man. I didn't really have any guidance on anything, was just kind of winging it, doing my own thing. And I was just kind of just good at it. I was always pretty standard in strength. I was benching around 400, squatting around 600, but all the way up until I started powerlifting, I never deadlifted. I thought it was a stupid workout, but back then it wasn't like a big thing when I was 21, 20. Deadlifting has only really blown up, I feel like, in the last 5, 6, 7 years. And so 10 or 12 years ago, no one around here I really saw deadlifting. So I never took it seriously. But I did do power cleans. I did like cleaning presses and stuff like that. So kind of similar to it, but just in a little bit different style, I guess.
When you were in high school playing football and stuff like that, hitting the occasional weight room, was there like any outliers of strength where you were like way stronger and above the pack than everyone else, or you were just decently strong?
Oh no, I was like in squats always been my big thing, man. When I graduated high school, I was squatting 620.
Okay. So there you go.
I mean, squats always been my thing, man. I've always been just really good at squats. I guess because, I played a lot of offensive and defensive linemen coming through school. I just naturally had like that strength in my lower body, but I was always a big kid too. Like I said, I graduated, I was almost 300 pounds. I was 293. I was just always a big guy. So my bench was okay. I think when I graduated high school, I think I was like 330, 340. I mean, that's okay. Now that ain't nothing to high school kids now, but back when I was 17 or 18.
150-pound high school kids are doing it with 1-inch range of motion nowadays.
You got kids in middle school doing that now, 7th and 8th graders. And, we had a thing in school like weight clubs. So you had like your 1,000-pound club, which was like your total between 3 lifts and stuff like that. And I was in the 1,100-pound club, and I was the only kid in the whole school with the 1,100-pound club. So that was always kind of like the outstanding point of me above everybody else. I think we had 2 kids in the 1,000 club, and then everybody else was like in the 800s.
It's funny because it's like, even though powerlifting wasn't a common word or commonly known thing, it's very different. Like people like us from just random, towns, whatever it is, compared to like people I've talked to from Texas. Like if you're in high school and you're doing that, they're putting you in a single ply suit, you're competing, and you're eating, breathing, powerlifting, and now you're Blake Hugh, or something like that. As opposed to there, you're just like, oh man, this guy's stronger than everyone else. Here's your 1,100-pound club. Keep playing football, And you graduate high school and you just continue lifting weights because that's kind of what but not familiar with powerlifting. Because again, 10, 12 years ago, it was popular in some states among some high schools, but the majority of places, it was like, what the hell is that? And most coaches probably didn't even have you deadlifting. If anything, you were trap bar deadlifting, power cleans. That's it.
Yeah, when I was in high school, it was bench, squat, power clean. That was it. Those were your main 3. And that's really all they ever got pushed. So the deadlifting just wasn't a thing, man. And when I got introduced to powerlifting or asked if I'd ever considered it, I was like, what? Power what? Like, right. Dude, I'd never even heard of it. You know what I mean? I was like, the hell is that?
So taking us through getting out of high school, you're doing bodybuilding, like you said, alternating those Arnold programs. You were 290 pounds. I'm guessing you start leaning out, getting down in weight, building a more proper physique, right? During those times, were you considering actually competing in bodybuilding, anything like that, or it was just kind of the training and the diet?
It was just the training and the diet, man. When I got out of high school, I was 18. I had just turned 18. I turned 18 2 weeks before I graduated because I have a May birthday. So, we graduate right around that May time. So I had just turned 18, went to college, didn't really do much for about 6 or 7 months. And I really got into the weightlifting thing because I had some family things going on. And my grandpa had a lot of health issues, and like 80% of that was just because he didn't get up and move around. You know what I mean? Like he just sat around the house all day, ate kind of whatever he wanted to. And in my mind, I'm like, damn, I don't do nothing but sit around the dorm room and eat whatever I want. You know what I mean? Like I never had that before. But then once my grandpa started having those issues, I was like, I don't want my kids or grandkids to see me laid up in the hospital because I'm just not active. You know what I mean? So that was kind of like my initial start getting into it. And from about the age of 19 to about 22 is when I really started taking it serious. And I got from 293, and the lowest I ever got was 200.6.
Damn.
So I lost 93 pounds. Yeah.
And were you like lean, moving decently weights, moving decent weights still, like very athletic looking, athletic feeling?
So yeah, when I got about 200 was the lowest I got. I believe I was about 20, 21 around 200. So about a year and a half, I actually lost the 90 something pounds. And I got up to, I think, about 215, 216. That was about the biggest I could get with how I was eating and everything. And that's when I was benching around 400 and squatting. I think the best, I never pushed like heavy singles. I never considered it or anything because I wasn't into the powerlifting yet. I think the best I ever did was 585 for 3. I think that was the most I'd gotten. I was actually aiming for 5, but I got it for 3, and I was like, yeah, no, we're not getting 5 of these today. So,
and man, dating back 8-9 years ago, you going to a normal, obviously normie style gym. You don't really see people throwing that around. And you also didn't really see people who weren't power lifters unless they had a weight room athletic background squatting, right? Or like you said, deadlifting. Legs were just, you kind of jump on those machines. That's where I started when I first started working out in 2011, 2012, then found powerlifting shortly after. So through those years, again, you said it was quite a few years of just those Arnold kind of splits, training lower body, push, pull, etc. What was your first exposure to the word powerlifting? Was it through social media? Did you see anyone on social media? Were you on social media? What happened?
No, so at the time, I used to train. Well, it was a Gold's Gym here in Augusta. So I was, at the time, I was dating a girl that was friends with another girl. And the guy she was dating, his name was Big Wayne. Have you ever heard of him? Wayne Van Ostrand. Wayne Van Ostrand. No, he does powerlifting. He's got a gym in Myrtle Beach. It's actually where Dawson Wyndham trains at.
Okay.
The powerhouse gym down there in Myrtle Beach. So he, the two girls would go train, and then Wayne's like, well, cool, let's go train. And this guy, first day training with him, he's like, we're benching today. I'm like, cool, let's bench. Now, Wayne's huge, man. He's like 6'2", 6'3", and like 280, 290. Huge dude. And we go to lay down. Man starts with the bar. I'm like, cool. I can start with the bar. That's a cool warm up. Man, this joker goes all the way up to straight plating to 545 for like 5 or 6 reps. And I'm like, who the hell am I training with? Like, I've never seen this dude in my life. And here he is in here, walks up in there throwing 545 around on bench like he's about to do 6 or 7 sets of 6 or 5 with this. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, I can get down with this, man, because like it's just that push, I didn't have that around Augusta. Everybody in Augusta area is more like on the bodybuilding side, or they're just in there, just kind of don't know what they're doing. And so I'm like, this is someone like I can really learn something from, especially in bench. Joker's almost repping 600 pounds.
Right.
And so I trained with him for a few weeks, and he was like, you ever thought about powerlifting? Because he'd seen me bench and he'd seen me squat. And I was like, power what? And he's like, yeah, powerlifting. He said, there's a gym right down the road. They have a powerlifting meet in like 3 or 4 weeks. He said, you should look into it and sign up. So I was like, okay, whatever. I get to weight lift and possibly win money. Cool, let's do it. So I signed up for the meet, got in contact with the gym owner, and signed up, paid the registration, did all that stuff. I didn't have knee sleeves. I didn't have knee wraps. I didn't have wrist wraps. I didn't have nothing for all this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in here just straight normal guy doing this. And so I bought a pair of like $30 Harbinger knee wraps from the sports gym here, and bought like some little $20 wrist wraps for bench press because Wayne told me, he said, you're going to need these. They're going to help you out a lot. I'm like, cool, let's do it. So for 3 weeks, I started deadlifting. right, to get ready for this because I had to learn how to deadlift. So I'm on Google, I'm on YouTube, trying to learn how to deadlift, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do and all this other stuff. And I start coming across like videos of Kaler Woolham, Dan Green, some of the bigger power lifters, especially back then. That was Dan when he was in his prime. He was 26, 27. He was killing it. And so I kind of started learning how to do it the best I could off of watching videos. And first meet, man, I went in there, squatted 600 even, ended up benching 415, and then very first deadlift meet ever doing it, 545.
Hell yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So open powerlifting's got it twisted then. They don't have this first competition on there, right? So what year was this?
I don't know if it was sanctioned or not.
Probably
You know
not,
what I mean?
right? Yeah,
It was
yeah.
probably just a little like local meet just to kind of throw it on. I don't think they had like real judges there. You know what I mean? So that meet probably is not actually in there.
So what, that was 2016 then, or 2015? What time frame were we at now?
That was probably about 16 ish. Yeah. Cause I was 22, 23 around that age when I first got started. So about 7.5 years ago.
Okay, cool. So guys, according to Open Powerlifting, what's official, right? First meeting here was January of 2017. So that was probably sometime 2016. Your first prep still hit some damn decent numbers for someone who's never competed before, right? So
Yeah,
after
I
that
think
experience, did you get like the bit by the bug? You loved it. Where did your exposure go from there?
yeah, because there was another kid at the gym, he was deadlifting like 700 pounds and he was squatting around the same thing I was, and he was benching around the mid fours. And I'm like, this kid don't weigh but five more. Oh, I ended up weighing in at 217 pounds at my first meet too.
Okay.
That tells you the difference of how long ago that was, because now I walk around mid 250s on every given day. But yeah, it's just, I placed second at that meet behind that one kid. And I was just like, there ain't no way. I'm a very competitive person. And I'm like, there ain't no way this kid's better than me. You know what I mean? I just like in my mind, I knew I was better. You know what I mean? But this kid had been doing it for 4 years now. You know what I mean? So you got 4 weeks opposed to 4 years, and I only lost by 160 pounds, I think. I'm like, I can do better. So from there, it was like, I can also have fun competing, doing what I love to do as far as for weightlifting. So it just grabbed me. You know what I mean? I'm like, I can get down with this. I'm that kind of person that it helps me to have like a push, something to work for, you know what I mean? To help keep me motivated. Cause let's be real, not everybody's motivated to go to the gym every day. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, I gotta go. I got to meet in 6 weeks. Like I can't afford not to go. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of where it started. And I started like Googling like records, like what the squat record was, what a competitive level was. And I was like, man, I can get these numbers. So I was at a 600-pound squat. I'm like, dude, if I can just get a 700-pound squat, I'm going to be the shit. You know what I mean? And from that first meet that I ever did here in Augusta to the next meet, I think it was like 732 or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the very first sanctioned meet, I squatted 738, and I'm like, man, ain't no way. 800's got to be it. You know what I mean? It just on and on. It just like, I was young and dumb. I was in my prime. I was like, can't nothing stop me. Put it on there. I'll do it. You know what I mean?
So what 2017, 2016, this is the time where you have a lot of knowledge that you can gather online, right? It's not like some, even our people of our same age who started powerlifting in a different generation of 2012, 2013, 2014, where there wasn't as much to look at, to find, as much programs, as much resource, as much YouTube, informative stuff, all that kind of shit. You had an advantage where there was a lot of that online. So what kind of stuff were you turning towards and seeing to kind of, after that first competition, to actually understand powerlifting, how to train, and how were you training?
Well, and so that after that first meet, I got with Wayne, and he was like, well, how'd you like it? And I told him, I'm like, dude, I loved it, man. It's just something about that adrenaline of competing and having fun lifting. And so him benching, he's one of the best lifters and best benchers. I mean, one of the best benchers for his age. I think he's like 51 or 52 now. I'm not 100% sure how old he is, but he benches like 600 pounds at the age of 50. Kind of had all the guidance I needed on bench press from him. You know what I mean? As far as for squatting, I was that annoying ass dude that at any competition I was at, I was going up asking guys squatting more than me. Hey, man, can you watch my squat and tell me what I need to work on? Or, hey, I was that guy. If someone's stronger than you, ask that guy, because odds are he knows something you don't know. You know what I mean? And that, and then, every competition I was doing that. I was sending Instagram messages to people like in my rankings. I started following a bunch of people. I was messaging Dan Green. I'd messaged, God, who was some of the people I messaged back then? God, I can't remember their names anymore.
You had Kevin Oak. You had Pete Rubish doing 100 or 242. Yeah,
he's another one I talked to a good bit. I sent you can even ask Pete.
One of the best.
I think I used to send Pete videos of like my squats and my deadlift, because he's got a monstrous deadlift too. And he would give me, constructive criticism. I never took anything, like personally. I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to figure out how to get better. And then I started seeing I started off pulling mixed grip. And so I started hearing people talking about hook grip. And that's where I started YouTubing hook grip. And then after about the first I probably pulled the first 2 years mixed grip. Year and a half, 2 years, I pulled mixed grip. And then I started getting into Bossa Bosses and stuff like that. And started talking to other people about how to perfect the hook grip and everything like that. But there was a couple other people. I talked to Kevin Oak a couple times. That was more about the squatting, but I think, man, it was all just kind of trial and error. You know what I mean? My squat was already pretty good. It was just more of learning a bracing and breathing. You know what I mean? As far as my setup and my footing and everything, I just had to be kind of learn control, because I was just kind of one of those submarine squatters, just plummeting down and ricocheting back up. Kind of just learned to slow it down a little bit, but I got away with it for an earlier age. But yeah, for a lot of the part, man, it was just kind of self-learning on YouTube, Google, and trial and error.
Well, something that's super crazy. You guys don't have open powerlifting open, but like we talked about, first competition, January 2017, squatted 738. Next competition, April, just fucking 3.5 months later, squat 782, right? Because that's where you said, well, fuck this. I want to squat 800. But
yeah, you're gunning it down, man.
What the fuck happened from April to October? You didn't squat 800. You went straight to squatting 900.
And let me tell you about that meet, man. So that was really, really crazy, because that federation, that's the only one I competed in for the first year and a half. And, man, they ran their event super, super smooth and very well organized. But something happened from the Saturday to the Sunday, because they did women on Saturday and men on Sunday. And something happened with their computer, but the system reset, and they had the squat bar in the system as a 45-pound bar. And it was not calibrating the collars. So not only was it showing a 45-pound bar, but it was also not calculating the 2.5 kilo collars on each side as well. So I had called for, I think 888 is what I had called for my second attempt on my squat, right? Dude, I picked that shit up off the mono, and my brain instantly was like, there ain't no way this is 880, because 4 weeks prior to that, I'd done 865 for a triple. So I was like, there ain't no way. This is only 20 more pounds. It felt like 40 more pounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's like just the instant, like 1 second thought coming off the monitor. I was like, holy shit. So I took it down, squatted up, racked it, and they gave me 888. I was like, man, fuck it, full send. So we loaded it with 909. Dude, I hit the bottom of that hole and there was no coming out. You know what I mean? And I was like, there just ain't no way it's 21 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, there ain't no way. And it wasn't until the next day that one of the guy's wives was going back and adding the calculated plates on his bar from his squat. Because a lot of people on the men's day bombed out.
Ooh.
And that's the reason why, it was misloaded by 21 pounds or almost 10 kilos. You know what I mean? That's a lot. And so the lady was going back looking at her husband's videos and realized that according to the plates and the bar, that it was overloaded by 21 pounds with the collars and the bar. And that's where they ended up looking back at mine and sending all the information in for, at the time, it was the all-time world record squat for the 242 class at 909. And that's how I ended up getting that record. My 888 was really added 21 pounds. So it was really 909. And completely hit it by accident.
Dude, that is nuts. But that literally in your first year of competing, to accidentally, but it was obviously on your mind and obviously a goal to go from in the 700s, skip straight over the 800s to land in the 900s and land with that all-time world record. That speed is just like, that speed of progression is absolutely insane. And again, speaks very much towards your genetics, your background, and you knowing from an early age, like, I'm built to squat, right?
And I'll tell you, man, it was also funny because that very first meet that I did here in town, I told you I pulled 545. Well, that same meet that I'd squatted 909, I deadlifted 832. So almost added 280 pounds to the deadlift too. It was one of those things that once I started learning about like the bracing and the breathing and started talking to people and getting feedback on stuff, man, it just erupted for me, man. Like I was just really good at it and was having a lot of fun with it.
And it's funny because it's like, when you're young, you're almost bulletproof, right? Which before we started recording, we talked about how now it's been a lot more difficult for you, right? But back then, it's like you could just go, compete back to back, keep getting stronger, say, fuck it, I want these goals. The progress is always quick at the beginning, and then things can start to catch up later on, right? So even with you hitting that all-time world record at that time, I guess maybe because the federation that I was in, whatever it was, doing it in the middle of fucking Georgia, it wasn't really spoken about. You still weren't amongst the names that people were discussing, right? Because I was extremely active in powerlifting at that time. By 2017, I'm already working for Hybrid, so I'm already with Steffi Cohen, and I'm behind her for all of her all-time world records. And I know all these people, and I know everything that's going on. I had no fucking idea who you were. I didn't hear about that all-time world record. You know what I mean? It wasn't until Boss of Bosses, I guess, after that performance, you somehow got an invite for Boss of Bosses. Is that correct?
Yeah. So after that, that actually ended up putting me past Dan Green's all-time total. I think by 2.5 kilos, it put me past his total. And I got a message just randomly one day from Dan's Instagram page inviting me to Boss of Bosses. And at the time, I was basically living paycheck to paycheck. And I was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna have the funds to fly all the way across the country to California. You know what I mean? And so down the road, ended up making it happen, man. And that was the very first meet that I've really traveled to, because all the competitions I had really done were either here in Augusta or Charlotte, North Carolina, which is only about little over 2 hours away from me. So the drive time isn't different. But so I got that invite to Boss of Bosses. Well, me being new into the game and traveling, I didn't know I needed downtime from the flying. So when I flew out and got there the night before weigh-in, and I wasn't like on any kind of like dieting plan or anything like that. But when we landed, dude, my knees and ankles were so swollen. My wrists and all were so swollen. I swelled up like a water balloon, man. And I went and weighed in that morning. I made weight. I was just swollen, man. And then when I tried to refeed and everything, I was miserable. And so when it came day to competing, dude, it was just a nightmare for me. And I was like, this was a drastic learning curve as far as for how I need to travel, how I need to change my dieting differently before and after flying, especially 5-6 hour flights. You know what I mean? And dude, I was aiming for like 920, 930 on squats. I think I hit 840 or something like that there. It was just a nightmare, man. And then, like you said, I bombed out, like bench. I'd been benching 455 for 2 sets of 3. I didn't even get 554. You know what I mean? So it was just like the traveling and the lack of sleep and the dieting, it killed me.
Well, let me ask you also. So you, again, historically, like we talked about, you've always competed in wraps. Was that other federation? Was it 3 meter wraps? And then now when you moved over, was it 2.5 or were you always in 2.5 meter wraps?
So the federation I was in did allow 3 meter wraps, but originally when I got into competing, I was told to get 2.5. So I've always competed with 2.5 meter wraps.
Were through all this time, were you self-wrapping? Did you use someone to wrap you?
I always self-wrap, man. And because it came down to one of those things that, especially as I started getting into like the heavier wrapping, as far as for like the heavier weights for wrapping, I didn't want to take the chance in someone messing up my wrap and then I get mad at them because I missed the lift. You know what I mean? And so it came down to I didn't really trust anybody to wrap me kind of thing. And I learned a lot of how to self-wrap off of watching like Eric Lillybridge and watching Yuri Belkin, like just watching them, like when they were like in meets and stuff, watching their videos. And Eric actually has a couple wrapping videos on his YouTube page, but that's how I learned how to self-wrap, man. Just tried to figure out best positioning, where to start, where to end, how to cross, and all that stuff was just kind of trying to self-educate myself. You know what I mean?
Sure. So Boss of Bosses, obviously that's a huge kick in the nuts. Your first time traveling, right? Going to a big pro meet where you can kind of put yourself out there, but weren't able to do that. You stood out to me because I'm like, who the fuck is this massive motherfucker with this huge squat and shit? And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, he's out of the meet now.
Yeah, well, hey, I still came in and pulled 800 right after, right? At least I didn't give up, you know?
Right, motherfucker. Hell yeah, man.
I'm halfway across the country. Where the hell am I going to go? My flight doesn't leave for another 2 days. You know
California, what the hell is this?
Funny, I'm here. I don't know anybody. I don't know where to go. I'm just going to hang it out.
Oh, man. So then moving on from that, you're able to then move into another pro meet. From here, it gets your shift out of local level to now following along the pro circuit, right? Because then it goes from 2018 Boss of Bosses 5, which was the last Boss of Bosses, still hoping they bring it back one day, right? To then the 2019 Kern US Open, which was the first one as WRPF, right? That was the one with the infamous wobbly platform.
Bro, that thing was a nightmare, man. Dude, it's like you made one wrong shift and it's like your whole body is shifting, man. That was awful.
Dude, watching it, I didn't know if any point like one of the boards was going to break, come up, smack you in the face like it's a fucking cartoon and shit. It was out of control. I was there handling a couple athletes competing, Steffi obviously competing as well. There you're able to put together a good total, 1,000 kilo total, right? And
that was the first meet I'd ever done for walkout as well. Every other meet I had done prior to that was off of a mono. So that was the very first meet I did a walkout too.
That's right. I remember they sanctioned his WRPF last minute, but then they decided they still wanted to keep the combo racks with it there.
Yeah, for USPA rules. Yep.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people were so stoked when it made the switch, but then they saw that. They're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, and I got asked about that meet. They're like, "Hey, man, you're invited. You're good to go, but have you ever walked out before?" And I was like, "No." They're like, "Well, if you're going to compete, you're going to have to learn how to walk out." And I'm like, "Fucking send it, man." I said, "I ain't scared. Put it on there. I hit it."
Hell yeah, man. So then continuing through there, boom, we keep following along the pro circuit. We hit the tribute meet. You hit a deadlift only, American pro. There's a lot of like little pauses throughout the years, right? So kind of talk to me from those peak performance days to now. You said you've had different nagging injuries. How's it been getting around those? How's that been mentally, physically, etc.?
So the Pioneer Open that I did, that was actually the first competition I'd ever gotten injured in. My second squat, I believe, was 854. I believe that's what that meet was. And I hit my first squat. The first squat, I kind of felt like a slight uncomfortable pain in my hip flexor. And I was like, it'll be all right. So I took my little roller and I kind of rolled my hip out. It felt okay. Dude, I put that second squat on there. I was like, dude, there's no way. There's no way. After I managed to hit it, but it kind of looked like, you remember when Dan Bell tore his quad and he ended up squatting it with one leg in that training video? That's what that squat looked like. I mean, it's like I just shifted all to one leg and squatted it with one leg. That was the first one. I think I took about 6 or 7 months off from that. And then the beginning, I was in prep I had talked to Marcos, who runs Pro Raw over in Australia. And Marcos, I had been talking to over the last couple of years as well, and he'd been wanting to get me out there for Pro Raw. And I thought, man, if there's a competition that's balls to the wall, it's going to be Pro Raw because they only have a 2-hour weigh-in.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, shit, that'll be the real test because if Dan Green could total 2204, I can do it. You know what I mean? That's just the mentality I had. If he can do it, I can do it. And so I was actually in prep for that for, I believe it was either March or April. And it was March. I think they were holding it in March. And then that February, the middle of that February, I was in there doing a double for 455. I hit it, came back down, was going to do 3 sets of 5 with 405. Came down on the third rep, pressed it up. I was like, man, that was just too easy. Came down for a 4th rep, went to push it up, snapped my pec, tore my whole tendon off the side of my shoulder. So I had to have surgery on that. And I could not lift or do anything after my surgery for almost 10 weeks.
And this was during COVID anyway, though, right? This was beginning of 2020?
This was right when COVID hit. So, gyms were closing down and everything then anyway. But I didn't really get back into getting cleared for doing stuff with my shoulder till right around June. And so I started getting back in the gym, and about at that time, I was dealing with Depth Before Dishonor, and they were holding a powerlifting meet at their new gym they had just opened. So I was like, well, I can't do anything upper body because I'm still rehabbing my shoulder from the torn pec. And that's where the deadlifting only meet is on there. And I think I pulled like 850 something there. And that's where that happened. And then the following year, I was supposed to do whatever meet I was supposed to do. Ended up tearing my left adductor in my hip, and it bruised all down my leg, up across my groin, up into almost all the way up to like my navel and my belly button. I mean, it just bruised bad. So that was just another setback. And man, from there, it's just been a nightmare, little small nagging back pains and strains that kind of got to nurse them for a couple weeks. And then after that was my right adductor that I tore 6 weeks before the Ghost Clash.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 6 weeks out, and I did what I had to do, ended up rehabbing it and came out the Ghost Clash. I think I squatted 810 there. And so it's just been like a domino effect over the last few years, man, that as I get older, when I start getting injuries, I just kind of like really back off, nurse them, rehab them. If it takes 2 weeks, great. If it takes 6 or 8 weeks, it is what it is, like I'm trying to do this more for the long run, not kill myself on the platform, trying to, do whatever I can to make it work,
Because it's like you have all that history there, and it's like muscle memory, whatever you want to call it. It's still there in the tank. Everyone can always get back to their peak and exceed it. It's just a matter of you can climb that mountain, get to the top without fumbling back down, aka getting another injury or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah, and that's what, especially about the last 2 years, a lot of people have been really pushing the sleeve thing, competing in sleeves. And I was like, man, that might be a good route for me to take, because sleeves require you to slow things down a little bit. You know what I mean? Because, most people don't get as much out of sleeves as they do out of wraps. And so I was like, I'll slow it down a little bit. And, I'll start swapping in the sleeves and training sleeves and get a couple competitions in with those. And I think it's really helped me a lot shifting into the sleeve thing, because it's forced me to be more controlling with the weight. You know what I mean?
And it's not going to overload your tendons, overload your body as much. You're not forced to have such heavy loads, which could expose you potentially to more injury. And like you said, it's going to change your movement patterns, so it can potentially help your movement pattern in the long run.
Correct.
So that's why then your most recent meet, you came down to Miami, hung out, party. It was just to qualify you because it was your first time ever competing in sleeves. When you hit me up, you're like, "Oh, there's still space for your meet," and I'm like, "Yeah, why?" I'm like, "Well, I've never done a sleeve meet, and I need to do the American Pro." I'm like, "Well, Jesus Christ, powerlift in a minute, squatted 900 pounds, never done a sleeve meet. All right, yeah, sure, why not?"
Yeah, dude, Micah hit me up about that, man. Dude, Micah's a great dude, and I'm really, the way he runs the pro, man, is like phenomenal. The way he runs that, and he's just like, he's on his shit with it. And so he had messaged me, I think around July or so. It was like, "Hey, man, I don't see a sleeve total for you." And I'm like, shit, like it didn't even cross my mind that I have to have a sleeve total to compete in sleeves. I was like, bro, like my rap record should be perfectly fine.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, he was like, nah, man, you got to get a sleeve meet in at least 8 weeks prior to this meet. And I'm like, oh shit, man. So I'm sitting there like just trying to like Google WRPF and USPA powerlifting meets like ASAP. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, what do I need for qualifying dots? He was like, you at least need a 485. Like that's the bare minimum. So I'm on my phone trying to calculate what I need for a 485. And I'm like, shit, my training numbers are already this. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, and then that's when I hit you up. I was like, bro, please tell me. Like, you're only a 2-hour flight away. I've been to Miami. I've been to the gym. I know where everything's at down there. Like, please, God, have room. And yeah, man, when I flew down there and had a good time and confused the shit out of everybody, it was like, is that all he's doing? He's just scratched the rest of his lips.
Yeah, man. Good time.
Yeah. Dude, I had a blast down there, man. I love all the meets you put on, bro. They're always fun and upbeat, and like everybody's like just in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. South Florida, it's got a really good community, whether it's the USAPL side of things, the WRPF side of things. It's just fun. And something about just my gym, not to boast my own gym. It's just got good energy, even everything down to the fucking lighting. You know what I mean? When you walk into those gyms that are like dark, there's no windows, it's dreary, something about like how the light from the outside hits the platform. It's got you energized. It's got you good to go.
I think it might just be like the $40,000 worth of chrome plates in there. You know what I mean?
Damn, you
You
told
have
everyone the
section with
actual
chrome
value.
plating.
Shit. Yeah, man, you're not wrong. But so then leading into present day, here we are. You got the damn sleeve total. We're fucking 4.5 weeks out, whatever it is, from the American Pro. Everyone and their mother is stoked. I'm so stoked. It's always a good time. Last year I drove up there. I'm driving up there again this year because I'm a madman and because I got
What is that, a 12-hour drive for you?
It's 13, 14. But because we take our dog Ben everywhere, and since they changed the emotional support animal rules, we can't fly with him. And we make a trip out of it. We stop in St. Augustine. We'll stop in North Carolina. It'll be a
Make
party.
a vacation with it.
Yep. And I'll be able to watch all you guys lift heavy things. And so talk to me. How's prep going? You feeling good?
Prep's going really good, man. It was so funny actually. Today's Wednesday. I think it was Friday when I was pulling. Like I'm like sitting there looking at what kind of totals I need to like get to this certain number. And so I'm not going to tell you exact numbers just because we don't want to give it away to everybody, but we're gunning for the top 10 sleeve total. And I was showing my boy in the gym the other day from the sleeve total that I had at your gym during the Summer Classic. I'll be going from like 215 to like number 10. I'm like, what a shift.
Hell yeah.
And so hopefully the things all go well. Everything stays together. Everything stays together really well. You know, we might be aiming for top 7, top 8 overall total, which would be great. And if all things go well with that, we'll be looking at doing probably another nice, good meet next year. Another sleeve one, just see, maybe we could try to push top 5 in sleeves. Everybody wants to get the best they can. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because like what you're even talking about potentially doing that would put you 7th or 8th, most other pro meets, even like the Golden Clash, would potentially win you first place in sleeves, right? But the roster, the sleeved roster for the American Pro men's side of things this year it's fucking nuts. Jawan, my athlete who won 2nd in sleeves last year, is ranked 5th. You know what I mean, with his entry dots. It's just absolutely absurd. It's going to be so competitive. There's going to be so many 600 plus dots. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun, and it's very cool to see that your training's trending in the proper direction for all that to get you back and beyond where you used to be.
Yeah, man, it's been an adventure, and I've told several people that this prep's been probably one of my most favorite preps I've had in a couple years. I've been injury free, pain free. Weight's been flying and moving. Like, man, I've been having a blast. You know what I mean? And it feels good to have fun training again. You know what I mean? Like a couple weeks ago, I hit 771 for a double on squats, and I probably could have hit it for 4 or 5. And I'm just like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like it feels good, not to hurt and be in pain. I'm like, shit. You know what I mean?
And that's the refreshing thing, I'm sure, also about diving into sleeves for the first time. It's like all these are constant. It's constant new ground, constant new territory, of new PRs and new accomplishments, as opposed to if you're in wraps, you're like, well, fuck, man, 3 years ago in prep, 4 weeks out, I squatted 845 for, a triple. Like, I'm not there yet. You know what I mean? So it's like now you can try to push the boundaries in a whole new way.
Yeah, man, we're going to give some people a run for their money at the pro, I believe. I'm going to be competing against my homeboy, Hugh Som. Love that man to death. Great dude. But I told him I'm going to give him his push. You know what I mean? But I like to talk, friendly shit back and forth anyway. That just kind of makes the sport what it is. But yeah, man, I told him I'm going to be gunning for him. It's that you better not be slipping up, because I'd hate to have to take over the show, a gym freak. You know what I mean?
Show them you become this insane hype man.
Show them who the real gym freak is.
Oh man, well, you guys are both my boys. Shit. I was just with him in Vegas this past week, and he was out there giving the IVs. Make sure you get an IV from him, bro. He might fucking shoot you up with some crazy shit.
Yeah, I think I was talking to him this past weekend. I was like, hey, bro, I was like, you're still running the IVs for the pro, right? He was like, yeah, man, I'm going to be there. And, I was trying to figure out, what I need to get so I can set that money aside and everything. But yeah, dude, I think Hussam is probably one of the chillest and one of the best people I've met in powerlifting in a long time. Like, I don't know, man. It's like, I understand the intensity and like people are anxious on like meet day, but when I was at Ghost Clash, dude, me and him were just back there in the back chilling, laughing, cutting up, cracking jokes. Like it was like fun, He's not uptight. He's just super chill and loves to have fun. I'm like, this is my vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not as much of like the rigidity and anger and intensity that you see most of the time in the untested side of powerlifting.
Me and him's over there laughing, having fun, sitting in the chairs, warming up, and we're looking across at these other guys in the corner on the other mono, and they're just like straight face, like look angry, like they're about to go murder somebody, and we're like, damn, bro, we're like, what the hell is the problem?
Well, also, you guys were both injured leading up to that meet. Let's see if you guys still have the same giggles in the back room of the American when you're going head to head.
We're probably going to be more giggling because we're going to be back there talking shit to each other. Fair. At least at Ghost Clash, I was in wraps and he was in sleeves, but I don't think it really matters, man. He's good people. He's good company, man, and it's always fun to be around him and hang out with him.
Now, let me ask you this, because your qualifier you put up doesn't put you in prime time. Is he in prime time?
I believe he is. Yeah, I think his dots is like a 580 or 590.
Right.
So I believe he's going to be in the prime time for sure.
So there's that obvious, unfortunate kind of advantage where you don't have that same head-to-head with him this time around, right? And he's
it's head-to-head.
Well, you're gonna essentially you lay the groundworks and you see what he's got to do.
That's right.
So
give him something to aim for. You know what I mean?
That's right, bro. And then you have all the leverage to talk shit if he slips up and then lets.
I'll be back there in the back talking shit like, "Hey, bro, you don't want to lose to somebody who wasn't in prime time, do you?"
That's it, man.
Yeah,
bro. Well. Here we are, a couple weeks out, man. I'm excited to be up there. I'm excited to see you again. Excited to see all the athletes that we've already interviewed, see what you can do, see what you can put out. Sign us out. Let everyone know where they can find you on social media, and we'll call it a wrap.
Yeah, my social media is at Jase, Jase Legrand. It's my last name. You can find me there. Besides that, man, see y'all in a few weeks. Alex, appreciate you having me, brother, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks too, man.
Hell yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in and joining us on this week's episode of the WRPF podcast.